Man, what a move in gold here. The bulls are out in full force. This is a time they've been waiting for. And for me, just take a step back. I just can't believe there's so much optimism after roughly a 7% move in gold this month. From 1313 to over 1400, maybe a little bit more than 7%. And look, I have a lot of friends in this industry. I've interviewed a lot of people on this podcast in the mining industry, close friends, hard workers. A lot of them run their own mining companies. And you know what? It's great news. If you look at this market, it's cyclical. These guys are not selling DVDs or in the coal industry or trying to make a living in an industry that's in a secular decline. It's an industry that's just been annihilated. You think about it, executives, investors had little to cheer about for what, 6 years outside of a brief move higher from late 2015 to around mid 2016. And right after that, gold and silver stocks started crashing again. So I'm really happy for them. Happy for my subscribers and listeners who have exposure. At least you should. Happy for myself since I own gold. I own gold coins and gold stocks. So I understand the enthusiasm. What I don't get is the animosity these same people, well, at least some of them, have against Bitcoin, which is up huge this year. It was 3,600 around those levels early January. Now broke 11,000. So for me, I'm trying to understand why so many gold bugs are hating on Bitcoin. Almost like it has to be an either or investment. There's black and white. You can own one, you can't own the other. But to see it, and I see it on Twitter, and I hear it just from friends, and you just the anger that comes behind that on both of these sides, especially anger from gold bugs after just a 7% move. I'd wait a little bit longer to claim victory here. Not that you claim victory, Bitcoin's up a lot more. I'm not too sure what kind of indicator that represents. We have the gold bugs trashing Bitcoin. I mean, my guess, maybe it means Bitcoin probably has much more upside potential. And usually when you see so many people trashing a stock, something that has momentum, it usually goes a lot higher. Beyond Meat is a good example. Tesla's a great example. You say, well, Tesla came down for, was it 5, 6, when that stock was below 100, people were destroying that thing. Went to 150, went to 200, went to 250, 300, almost to 400 before it finally pulled back. Where is it, around 220 today? But you see these things move incredibly higher. The more anger you see within these stocks, the more people that come out against them. So what I'm saying is they could just move a lot higher or a lot lower based on sentiment. But I'm not too sure if that's what it means. Maybe that's the indicator of the gold bugs trashing Bitcoin. But the reason why I'm opening up with this segment, because I know a lot of you own gold and a lot of you own Bitcoin and cryptos, is try to stay away from the noise or the permabulls or permabears in anything. We look at us, our methodology, it's about the data. And let's start with the recent breakout in gold. Because when you look at it from a technical level, in the past 5 years, gold approached 1350 numerous times, about 4 or 5 times. Every single time over this 5-year period, it bounced off this level and headed lower. Which, by the way, I first saw being pointed out by Carter Worth. If you don't know him, he's on CNBC. They call him the chart master, and he is a chart master. Probably the best technician I ever saw. They have him on there. His calls are amazing. He's going to get some wrong every now and then, but he makes a lot of sense. And anyone, and this is 3-4 weeks ago, when we just broke through 1350, he said, right now is the time to buy gold, go long anything gold. And he showed it. If you saw that segment and just the chart that he put up, it would have made you buy gold. And he was dead right. And the reason is each low that was hit over that 5-year period was higher than the previous one. That's a huge bullish sign. Usually means a breakout is coming, and it came. Broke through 1350, goes down trading over 1,400 an ounce for the first time since May 2013. So gold breaking out here is really 6 years in the making. It's definitely for real. I expect to see some great moves in a lot of mining stocks, which we're starting to see. And guys, if you haven't been part of a bull market, you're going to realize why I put stops and why I try to invest in a lot of these things over the past couple of years. And we hit our stops in 3 of them. We're still in. We have a lot of exposure to this in different portfolios. I'll go over that in a minute. Because when you're in a bull market in this industry, you don't get 1x, 2x, 3x gains. You get 10x, 20x, 30x gains. That's how this industry works. And having exposure to junior miners in Curzio venture opportunities. I mean, we were able to get into several private placements. A lot of exposure in our all-star portfolio where we take one idea from my guests each week that I interview on Wall Street Unplugged, this podcast. And these ideas, which can be anything, shorts, crypto, collectibles, stocks across all sectors. And some of them I mentioned during the interview. But a lot of times I mention before or after the interviews. Because when I do the interviews, look, I call them up and I'm talking to, hey, how's everything going? 5-10 minutes, we're talking depending on the guest, if I talk to them a lot or not, or if it's first time guest, and just telling them a whole bunch of stuff at the beginning. And then at the end, usually it goes very well. I'm like, this is great. And then we'll talk about, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? And if I know the person, which I know most of my guests, even the first timers that come on, I've talked to them outside of the podcast, but I ask them how your families are doing and what are you working on? They ask me what I'm working on, what I'm seeing. Again, it's a massive network. So I'm able to take a lot of these stock ideas and throw them in a newsletter and write up a nice research report for you. And I'm giving you ideas from not just one person, but hundreds of people that I interview and getting their best ideas. And we put it into one newsletter called All-Star Portfolio. But also, it's a great portfolio. You're getting everything from experts and just new picks, fresh picks every single week. It's a really cool product that, we're seeing a lot of demand for, and it makes sense. You have to just worry about getting picks from one person, getting picks from a bunch of people. Anyway, since we interviewed a lot of mining guys over the past 6 months, there's a lot of mining stocks in All-Star Portfolio right now. So I'm glad to see, subscribers doing well. Now, just went through the technicals on gold, but what about the fundamentals? The same story kind of exists today as it did for the past few years, right? Easy money policy by the Fed, debt levels hitting new records. We have a shortage of gold to where most of the majors significantly cut CapEx over the past 6 years. Why? Because it was so leveraged to the point where I can guarantee you some worry about going bankrupt. It was insane. So they're not spending to drill. They're spending to survive. They're basically cutting everything to survive. Now, what does that mean? Hardly any new major gold discoveries over this time frame. It's kind of like we see with almost every long-term downturn, if you could say it, every just like a nice 5, 6, 7 year crash in any sector. What do you see? A massive cutback in spending, lots of layoffs, supply decreases, and then what happens is demand eventually picks up. Not a lot of supply in the market, and prices move higher. We see this happen with oil all the time. But again, it's been a story, at least from the fundamental part for gold for years. And you can say, well, it's a safe haven. It's not going up because it's a safe haven. The market's doing great right now. People aren't like, believe me, they wait for the market to crash 40% before they go into safe haven. The safe haven isn't gold. I mean, you can look back in the last 20 years, 15 years. People don't pour money into gold when the shit hits the fan. They pour it into treasuries. And gold doesn't really outperform. So I'm not seeing gold move up because of that. And gold being a store of value to park your money at crazy times. No, right now it's not crazy. Not only to store their value in gold right now. That's not why it's going higher. So we look at this rally. It's more technical based than fundamentally driven, which really doesn't matter. It's going higher. But if gold maintains $1,400 level and push through $1,500, now it's a different mindset. A lot of projects look to get developed. Means more spending, more M&A. So the outlook for gold right now looks really good, and I hope you're positioned. You should be. Now let's get back to Bitcoin. Just surged past 11,000 again, which is a 15-month high. To put that in perspective, it was 3,400 to start the year. So we're talking around a 200% move higher this year, right? 6 months. Now, is this move higher because sentiment is shifting? Are more people believing in it? Maybe. And Fidelity just published a survey where more than 20% of institutional investors already own digital assets. Huge news from Facebook. Creates its own cryptocurrency. I mean, that adds credibility to the industry. And Libra's not a competitor to Bitcoin, guys. And by the way, this is going to be a game changer. The amount of work that they put behind this is unbelievable. I mean, this is in the making for a while. And yes, it just got announced, but they signed numerous partners behind the scenes. Facebook's basically going to create their own payment system within its network. And the fact the biggest credit card providers and even payment processors and the companies are partnering with them, I mean, it shows you how worried they are, since the massive fees they charge for every swipe are about to go down a lot. So, hey, let's be part of this and not miss out, because this could really hurt us. You're the MasterCards and the Visas and the PayPals investing $10 million each, and they have, 20, 30 partners they want to build up to 100. That's pretty incredible. Plus, Facebook announced creating its own security token, which is pretty great news for us. Validates our thesis, right? We based our company on that. That's still open. I'll talk about that later. Encourage the equity owners. You also had AT&T announce going to accept payments in Bitcoin. Again, just another endorsement from one of the largest companies, big brand, biggest in the world. It validates the industry where so many people are skeptics. You can say, well, the move in Bitcoin is technically driven, which was the case when it surged past 6,000, which wasn't that long ago. It's weird you say 6,000 is 11,000, but literally the last 2-3 months have been incredible for Bitcoin. I wouldn't say more technical is driving it up right now. It's more about momentum and FOMO, which is a nice term, fear of missing out. People want to get in it. But it's funny when the younger generation, right, which is these Bitcoin enthusiasts, they challenge the gold bugs. They do it in social media all the time, saying Bitcoin is a store of value, which Bitcoin's not a store of value. I mean, it's much better than holding gold. And if you hold gold, that means you're a dinosaur. So you have these guys who've been, focusing their whole lives on gold coming out. And I think because of this, they start hating Bitcoin. And not that they want to hate Bitcoin, but it's just, you see these young kids just say, hey, it's a dinosaur. You know what you're doing. It's pretty crazy. So I can see it, it's making the gold bugs angry to the point where, they're just hating on Bitcoin. You have Peter Schiff calls it fool's gold, said to sell it at 3,000, 4,000, 6,000. Just kind of what he said about the market over the past, 8 years, that the market's going to crash 50, 60, 70%, the whole entire, whatever. I feel about that guy. Buffett hates it, right? Made that clear. Jamie Dimon hated it. Now his company's creating its own token, and they're aggressively investing in blockchain for JP Morgan. Jeff Schumacher from BCG Digital Ventures, pretty big guy. And he said this at a conference in Davos, Switzerland, not too long ago, that I think it was in January 2019. Bitcoin's going to zero. Rubini said the same thing. It's going to zero. So, guys, there's a ton of noise out there. And if you want attention, what do? You say Bitcoin's going to 100,000 or it's going to zero. You don't say it's going to go up. It could probably, reach its highs again, maybe hit 20. No, that gets you no place in this world. With social media and you focus, people just want to be entertained in a second, to where if you click a page and it doesn't load, you're out of there. Like if it takes 3 seconds to load a page, you're done. You're clicking out of it and going someplace else. So you got a matter of seconds to impress someone, to get them to read anything. And you're not going to get them to read anything by saying, hey, Bitcoin's 11,000. I think it still has a little bit more upside. Nobody cares. They want to read why it's going to 100,000, which you have a lot of assholes in this industry calling for that. Let's hit 19,000, previous highs first. Let's go there first before you go to 100,000. I didn't hear you say 100,000 when it went down to 3,000, but now you see, everyone just going crazy. There's a lot of noise out there. But don't get caught up with all the BS. With the egomaniacs pounding their chests. And gold and Bitcoin, it's not either or, guys. It's not black or white. I own both. You're allowed to own both. Both can exist together. They can move higher or lower together. But I have to tell you, from someone who has a lot of experience in both of these industries, and we see experts in gold and experts in Bitcoin. But from someone like me that has a Wall Street background of over 25 years and just launched a security token of his own, again, encourage you equity owners, which few people on Wall Street have actually done, right? We're the first to the party there. I could tell you, there's zero relationship between the two. It's like you arguing gold and Bitcoin through these arguing against each other. It's kind of like income investors arguing against growth investors. It's two totally different things. I mean, people want to compare it to the same thing. It's a whole world is digital. It makes sense to have a digital currency. Whether Bitcoin will be it is still undetermined. Maybe it's something else, but digital securities are here to stay. It makes sense. You look at the relationship to gold, it's a store of value. You're going to hold money. You look at gold, you can't really pay for anything in gold. You pay a lot of things in Bitcoin. Not saying Bitcoin's better than gold, but it's two totally different investments, guys. It's two totally different investments. The diehard gold bugs, they're not buying Bitcoin as an alternative to gold, and the diehard Bitcoin bugs are not buying gold as an alternative to Bitcoin. And the one thing they do have in common is, they both provide an alternative in keeping your money in fiat, but it's not a zero-sum game where one wins and the other loses. It's not like high definition and Blu-ray. I like that analogy for 20 years, where only one of them could exist. Hey, look, I have a newsletter called Crypto Intelligence. It's on fire right now, focusing on cryptocurrency investments. We did a great job limiting our risk when the market sucked last year. Did a fantastic job. I got a little heat from subscribers saying, recommend something. My job is to protect you guys when things are bad and make you money when things are good. And my relationship isn't based on 2 months. It's based on how I'm going to treat the next 10, 20 years. And when I see a market coming down, I didn't recommend anything for a couple of months and just, provide a lot of added value in those newsletters. I'm kind of proud of that. I know you guys want investments, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to educate you and teach you how to invest. And I'm not going to say, hey, the whole market's crashing. Here you go. Here's another crypto investment. No. We started aggressively recommending the cryptos into a lot of good ideas, a ton of research in the space, and it's doing very well. I also write Curzio Venture Opportunities, and that's a high-risk, super high-reward newsletter for speculative investors, focused on micro-cap and small-cap investing. And I recommended junior miners in that letter. My subscribers who are accredited were able to get into several private placements. And one of them is doing very well, and a couple others doing okay. But one is doing exceptionally well. But everything's bouncing back now. We got warrants on a lot of these deals, which are great. So for me, and it's been this way for over 2 decades, when it comes to my methodology, I take advantage of every opportunity that's out there, wherever the data or the research tells me to go. Don't get caught up with emotions. We start listening to these, crazy perma anythings or emotional cheerleaders who clearly have an agenda. You should be willing to invest in anything if the time is right, if the research dictates that, if that's what you see in the market. And to tell you, sometimes the opportunity is to be aggressive, buy small cap stocks. Sometimes it's going to be to go into safe havens, utilities, income investments, staples. Sometimes it's going to be, hey, alternative investments, different assets. And sometimes the opportunity is stay in cash and wait. And that's a tremendous opportunity. If you're in cash and the market crashes, you can have a tremendous opportunity to buy how much stuff at dirt cheap prices, sometimes pennies on a dollar. But guys, take what the market is giving you. Gold and Bitcoin are going higher. Both have huge momentum right now. And for me, I'm just happy my subscribers are benefiting from both trends. You know what? I hope you guys are doing the same instead of listening to some arrogant, I won't curse again, screaming at the top of a mountain on why Bitcoin's going to zero, or why Bitcoin's going to 100,000, or why gold's going back to whatever. When that person is, basically a gold bug and they never owned a cryptocurrency in their life, but they're telling you that it's going to zero. They know nothing about it. Kind of like when Buffett mentioned it and Jamie Dimon and others spoke about Bitcoin and then retracted a lot of those statements and said, okay, wait, I just didn't really understand it. So be careful there. These guys are not experts in every single industry. They're experts within the industries that they work in. And when you have an alternative like Bitcoin that could scare banks and banking systems, they're going to trash on it and say it's ridiculous and it's stupid. But now it's funny how JP Morgan's really adopting it, launching their own token and going all in on blockchain.